Get your Doom figures at Big Bad Toy Store. The link in the description.
Dragon Ball, horror, kaiju, and more. Steven's Toy Reviews.
Hey there, collectors, it's Steven here, and welcome to another Rudy Tooty point-and-shooty action figure review, where today we're going to be taking a look at the 1000 Toys RE Edit Halo Infinite 1/12 scale Master Chief review. There's a whole lot more to the title, but that's what we're going with. Okay, so 1000 Toys finally made another Master Chief from the newest Halo Vigia game, and oh boy, this is going to be a review specifically of the exclusive edition. If you didn't know, they already released one that came with a blue sword. Now we get a red sword and the BFG shock rifle. Ooh, very cool. So this is going to be supplied exclusively through previews, so only some retailers through Diamond Select Toys were able to pick this up. So Big Bad Toy Store does have this up for order. It's where I picked mine up. Now, with that being said, price tag is $165, and I've got a lot to say about it. So, is this going to be a good figure with this nice die-cast frame and accuracy to Halo Infinite, or oh boy, let's take a look to see whether or not he's going to be worth adding into your collection. This is like my 7th time doing the entire audio for this review, so I'm going to try to make everything as succinct as possible, going to make it parsimonious, so let's get going. For those of you who have been following my channel for some time, you know that when it comes to the sculpt and paint of an action figure, accuracy isn't always necessarily going to be the name of the game here. I mean, of course, we want it to look as close as possible to the source material. However, sometimes companies unfortunately get really early models and CGI files for what they're looking at for their character. For an example, Tamashii Nations and their SH Monster Arts King Ghidorah 2019, the final design that we saw in King of the Monsters didn't match up to what they were supplied for the design. Same thing goes with Godzilla 2014 and a couple of other figures, most notably the recent Spider-Man releases. Here, for Master Chief, I have to say, for sculpt-wise, I mean, maybe the arms are a bit too short. Otherwise, I think sculpt is fantastic. I mean, this figure really looks like it walked off of my laptop screen. It's all right, I got a gaming laptop, get good. And I really have no complaints in terms of sculpt. I think it looks great. I mean, being a suit of armor, effectively, I mean, John Halo anyway, all the articulation is engineered and integrated very well. The only area of contention, I suppose, may be the hips, but even then, it looks fine. The visor, fantastic. Not only does it look translucent, it also looks metallic, reflecting light. Blended very well. What isn't blended very well? If you actually played Halo Infinite, you know that Chief kind of looks like he was put through the ringer. I mean, right off the bat, he kind of gets his behind handed to him, his nice plushy soft tuchus handed to him from Atriox, right? Okay. And he's clean here. I mean, he's got a little bit of a scratch mark on the left side of his chest, but come on. I mean, for the price point, what? There's basically no paint here. I mean, yes, we do have the 117 decal on the chest, but otherwise, there's no paint application. So sculpt, yes, great. And as I made mention, there are a whole bunch of die-cast parts, die-cast frame even. But, I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot at the factory to say, hey, here's a paintbrush with just a little bit of black paint on it. Go crazy with dry brushing. At the end of the day, when we talk about the sculpt, fantastic. Paint application in terms of accuracy, no way. No. All right, articulation. And I've already recorded the rest of the audio for this review, so I kind of got to hit the ground running, and we got to talk about how he moves. Overall, rather good. A couple of odd choices that they did and they didn't do, but at the same time, some really neat stuff here. And yeah, he moves just fine. I mean, even my little critiques aside. So what do we have? Well, the whole neck system is going to be on a system of ball joints. So this way, Chief can definitely do whatever he needs to do. He can do that with his neck. He can do that. So we have a ball joint here and a ball joint there where the neck attaches in. So he can look down about that far. He can actually look up that far. And then with the assistance of the joints in the torso, he can do more. But anyway, he can rock his head from side to side. He can do everything that needs to be done. His shoulder pads are actually going to be on hinges that go out that far, which is rather nice to see. He is going to have butterfly hinges where his shoulders plug in, so that's good to see. And those are actually going to be on hinges. Those aren't going to be on like stealthy ball joints, kind of like what Bandai is doing with the SH Figuarts line. His shoulders do plug in on ball joints though, so that's good to see. But something to keep in mind, so they are on ball joints, right? And then we have this little lip here. Now watch carefully. You watching? Boom. So that's going to scrape the plastic and the paint. So you have to push the arm out a little bit, and then you get the full clearance. So that's good to go. Now, do we have a true blue bicep swivel? We do, which is good. That just recently started turning for me, so that's good to see. But this one doesn't really want to turn. So it is what it is. We do have a double hinge elbow, which is good. I got to show you this way because it's easier to show you this way, right? So we do have, come on, hinge movement there. There you go. Now, we don't really have a forearm swivel, but we do have a swivel in the middle of that double hinge elbow. So that's different, but neat. Yeah. Okay. Wrists. I don't know what the issue was with the Combat Evolved, John Halo, but they do like to pop off a bit. Not a whole lot, but you know, you're fiddling around with it. You have a weapon in his hand, they will pop off. But very similar to Figuart style, because they do have a hinge that moves one direction, and then they do spin around. And I actually found this out on accident, almost sheared it off. So be careful there. And then the hands pop in on ball joints, and they do spin around, and they're mostly going to be doing the majority of the work. So wrist movement, once you're able to free that up at the base, you know, fantastic range of movement. Really good, really good. Torso articulation. So he is going to have a ball joint up here. So he can do little micro adjustments. Then he is going to have another, I want to say that's just going to be a hinge because I can't really get it to rock around from side to side, but it moves forward and back, which is good. And then he's going to have, at least it seems like a waist swivel. It doesn't really seem like that's going to be a ball joint. So realistically speaking, he's got some pretty good range of movement there. And for looking up, he can do that. Looking down, he can do that. So that's really good. This portion of his belt moves up and down. It doesn't really want to move out. So it's pretty much just going to be on a hinge. If it does want to move out, I can't get it to do that. Hips, very reminiscent of SH Figuarts 2.0 style hips, right? So they are going to kick forward, and that's where that comes in. What about back? Fantastic. What about out to the side? Yeah, pretty much, which is good. We do have thigh swivels. So very good. Double hinge at the knee. Fantastic. Do we have any swiveling there? No, but we do have these knee pads, which are good. They like to move. Now, here's what's interesting. Take a look at that. This is a part of the calf sculpt, but it moves. And then also, real quick, look at that. We got like Solo Chogokin Gypsy Danger movement here out of the back of the leg. Anyway, so ankles. These are going to be made out of die cast, the feet. And ooh, what do we got there? Yeah, something scratched up. But anyway, where this socket is plugged into the lower portion of the leg, that's going to be actually on a ball joint. So that's good to move around. As you can see there, we got some good movement. Then the foot is going to get plugged in on a ball joint. So good movement. Ankle guard. This feels like it moves to help with forward and back movement, but it doesn't move whenever I force it to move too much. But regardless, we have toe hinge. So I'm sure there's probably another point of articulation or two that John Halo has here. But honestly, that's your articulation. That's what you got. You can use it well. He moves just fine, and his die cast really helps with balancing. He moves really good. Accessories time, and it's going to be a little confusing, but straightforward if you pay attention. We're going to have a whole bunch of option hand parts For the original release, we're going to have 4 sets, not including the fists. For the previews exclusive version, we're going to have 5. For the original release, we're going to have the CQ S48 Bulldog. Great shotgun. Don't at me. Loved it during my playthrough. We're going to have the MA40 assault rifle. Pretty good. Wasn't a huge fan, but it was all right when you needed it in pinch. We're going to have in the exclusive version, the Elite Bloodblade Energy Sword. Red. Okay. In the normal release, it's going to be blue. Then, in this version, Doom Guy is going to...
Steven! It's not Doom!
All right, fine, I'll stop. Master Chief is going to come with the shock rifle. Gonna talk about the shock rifle in a minute. Now, the extra set of hands that we get with this release is going to be for the shock rifle. Now, before we get into the actual guns and taking a look at them, I do want to make mention specifically for the guns, they are all going to come with a hardpoint attachment, and Chief is going to have 2 plugs on his back by his shoulders and on his thighs, closer to his hips. Now, something that I will take note, on the exclusive edition, I have seen a couple of small reports here and there that one of the covers for the holes on the shoulders was missing. Mine as well. Others, nope, no issues there, or it was floating around in the box. Mine wasn't floating around in the box, so something to take note of. Anyway, you're just going to have to pop these out, and all of the guns have a little peg that go into these holes. And on the thighs there, the previous Master Chief release came with 2 pistols, and I guess this is where he's supposed to store them. So if you do want to display Chief with guns on him, you can do that. So anyway, for his hands, overall, we're going to get weapon holding hands for the energy sword. We are going to get weapon holding hands for the Bulldog and the assault rifle, and hands for the shock rifle. We'll talk about the shock rifle specifically in a minute. We are going to get splayed open hands, and we're going to get Specium Ray hands. If you don't know Ultraman, you should. All right, so aside from that, let's take a look at the weapons. So the Bulldog looks really good, and I do have to commend this release here for the paint application on the different weapons, except for 2 we'll take a look at last. So the Bulldog and the assault rifle, they look really, really good. I don't quite remember them offhand in terms of accuracy, but I gotta say, for what we have here, they look great. For the assault rifle, it is a little difficult to get him to hold it, but hey, you know what? At the end of the day, it just works out fine enough. You can get him into some classic poses from the game. When it comes to the Elite Bloodblade Energy Sword, no issues holding it. You can get him into some fun poses, but I was kind of sort of under the impression from the promotional pictures, and especially for the price point, that this would have been made out of translucent plastic. Instead, it's just red with a tampograph decal on it. Why? For the price point, they could have done it. Shock rifle time. All right, so the shock rifle, if I remember correctly, and looking at all the in-game images that I can see, even the models that have been ripped from Halo Infinite, it should have red on it, but it doesn't. Again, I'll kind of sort of not really go back to what I said at the top of the review, and that sometimes, you know, companies only have early access to source material, and they don't really get updated ones, but it's not like they had to make a brand new mold for that. Just, here's a paintbrush, fix it up. And that's not something we should be doing for the price point. Now, for the extra hands that we get, they're going to be a little bigger, and they're going to have an extra crease in them, so this way he can hold the shock rifle. It is a royal pain to get him to hold this because the shock rifle is made out of a very hard plastic. So I got him to hold it for this review. I just snapped a couple pictures. Never going to get him to hold it again. It's going to go on his back. End of discussion. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, Chief only comes with 3 guns and 1 sword. He has access to a whole arsenal of weapons throughout Infinite. I want him to have other weapons. Well, congratulations. There is going to be another company, Jazzwares, Spartan Collection. If you are going to pick up some of those releases, then you can add other weapons throughout the history of Halo for this release, or to this release, whatever. Whatever's going to be the proper English there. The only thing that I will note is you are going to have to force some of the guns into his hand, and just be careful that you don't break anything when you're forcing it. Likewise, Chief is rather large for the 1/12 scale. Most notably, Mezco has the Baker's Dozen sets that they've released on the market, and they've also done some other 1/12 scale figures. Chief can hold some of those weapons, but they do look a little bit small. But hey, you can fudge pretty much anything. And that is going to be a wrap. Whew, okay, so hopefully looking at time. All right, we're doing okay there. We're about to wrap up the review anyway. So what's the overall verdict for accessories? Well, I mean, kind of like I said, the shock rifle, pretty difficult for him to hold. And for the Bloodblade sword, you know, the translucent plastic is a bit of a bummer. Now, what I will say, the main gimmick of Halo Infinite that I saw in the trailers, which really got me excited, ooh boy, this is going to be fun, is the traversal options. That being the grapple, the grappling hook. And it's not here. I don't care if it was just going to be a little thing that clipped onto his forearm, and they included maybe even just a 1/2-inch bendy wire with a little grip onto the top of it. I mean, why wasn't that here? Here in my display, I have a little chain that I have from an accessory set that I picked up. That it wasn't even an actual action figure accessory set, but why? Why not? I mean, that's Halo Infinite. I mean, that's what you're doing throughout the entirety of the game, but c'est la vie. I mean, I guess for the price point, they couldn't work it in. If you're looking for other accessories, I already talked about some other stuff you can get, but if you're looking for stands, which I think he should have came with anyway, or effect parts, I got videos to help you out. And if I forgot the card for some reason, just check out my channel. It'll be there. Size comparison time. And like I said, for the 1/12 scale, I think maybe he's a little bit too big. I know canonically he's in the 7-foot range, maybe 7'1", 7'2". So yeah, he is meant to tower over some of your other figures, but even still, I think he'll blend in just nicely. So buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. Kind of like I said, for $165 for this exclusive version, or I think it's going to be around $150 for the normal version, that's a lot to ask for. Now, in a sort of a vacuum for just the figure by itself, I think this is a great release. I think the die cast really does add some value here, where normally I think it's just kind of a meme that can be thrown away. The accessories here, really nice. I think the hands really give him a nice option. The articulation, really good. I think he looks fantastic. But when we factor in the price, honestly, no, this ain't worth its salt. Unfortunately, no. It's a damn shame that it came to this, and quite frankly, that's about as vulgar as I can get in this kind of review. I will have my full, intense 100,010% Steven opinion somewhere else, but I'm just going to kind of tone it back for this and say that if you like Master Chief, if you love him, this is going to be the release to get, but you're going to have to pay a premium to get this. Otherwise, if you're just kind of like, hey, I want a Master Chief to go along with my Figma Samus, it's Samus. Don't at me. Or the upcoming Figma Doom guy, then quite frankly, just get one of the Spartan Collection Master Chief figures that is of your preferred armor. This is going to be only for the diehards, which, if you can't tell, I am more than likely not.
Well, collectors, that brings us to the end of the video today, and I just wanted to take a second to thank you so much for watching. Now you've heard a lot from me, I'd like to hear a little bit from you. Drop in the comments down below whether or not you liked it, you hated it, or maybe you were somewhere in between. I also want to take an extra second here for a nice, humongous thank you to all the patrons for SDR over the last month who have really helped the channel grow into what it can be today. So to all of you, 2 big thumbs up. Thank you very much. And now the end card should be popping up, which will give you a few clickable links, like maybe to subscribe or head on over to my Patreon, or some short URLs like to my social media or to my Teespring store. There's also a video I hand selected for you, so if you want to watch another STR video, I hand selected some good content for you to watch, so definitely check out that video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch ya in the next video.